In this video, I'm going to talk about XLOOKUP in Google Sheet, which also works the same in Excel. So if you understand the Google Sheet one, you'll be able to do what it does in Excel. So let's get started. And to get started here, I have the sample data here under this sheet, which shows region, country, items sold, and all the rest. And it has a unique number called order ID. This number is what we are going to use for our XLOOKUP. Also, more importantly, you need a unique number as the lookup value. Why do we need this? Is because if there are two numbers that appear, it will only take the first match. If there are two of them, it will not take the second match. So that's why we need a unique list to act as our lookup value. Now, I'm going to start it simple, then I'll move on and show you the more complex parts. So to get started, we're going to type XLOOKUP, and the first argument we need is our search key. The search key is what are we looking for? The value to search. If you look in the documentation here, it guides you on what each of these arguments means. So according to the documentation here is the value to search. So the value we are searching is this order ID. Then you put a comma. The lookup value. The lookup value, the lookup range. The lookup range is where are we going to search this value? In which range are we going to search this value from? So I have 6 items here. So I'm going to go to the next sheet and I'm going to search whatever I'm searching in this. The order range there. Okay, that is where I'm searching from. Then the next argument is what result do I want to be returned? What I want to be returned is a country, like so, and I can close my brackets there. Now, as you see, the first argument, when I search for the first item, it gives me NA. What does NA mean? NA means that it has searched the database and it has failed to find the value in there. That's why it returns NA. So when you look at this value, it ends with 933. If I go to my data set here, the 933 among the first 6 items I selected does not exist. That's why it returns NA. Okay. Now, because I want to copy down my formula here, for example, if I copied it down here without locking, it gets disorganized. I'll show you an example here. If I do like that, so when I do this, you find that whereas the first one is B2 to B7, G2 to G7, the next one becomes 3 to 8. So it moves down a step as you drag down. So for this reason, it is important that we lock these cells by highlighting them and pressing function F4 before we copy our formula down. With that one, even here it gives a highlight error, and then we copy our formula down. So you'll also observe that for the second item, it has failed to get it. That's why it has returned NA. Now, this XLOOKUP value has a way, if you don't want to see these NAs, you can tell it to provide a particular value. It's one of the arguments, as we shall see. Now, before we move on to that, I also want to tell you that if I change this one to a text value, right now it is a number, but if I change it to text value by inserting an extra quote mark, it returns NA. In other words, the data type is very important. It searches for the item as well as the data type. So this data type now is a text, and it is searching, it's finding a number, and because the data types are different, one is a text, one is a number, despite the fact that they all look the same, but they have different data types. So this 157, when it searches for it in here, it finds a number, but here it is comparing it to a text. That's why it returns not found. So you need to be aware that the not found may also be as an indication of the data type that you may need to also check out for. So when I remove that quotation and return it to a number, it gives me the result I expect. So the next, let's look at the other arguments that we have. Now, by default, the next argument is a missing number. So in other words, if it is an optional argument, you can put it there or leave it out. In case the number is missing, what do you want to be returned? So I can decide and say in quotes, I want to return a text. And if you're returning a text, you have to put it in quotation marks. So because I'm returning a text, I put it in quotation marks and I say not found. So in case it searches for a value and it does not find it, it return not found. So you can see here, this value is not found. So I need to copy it down, and wherever it doesn't find a value, it returns not found. So if I want to return a number, I don't need to put it in text. So maybe I need to return a number 1. I'll just type it as 1, then copy the formula, whatever, then it return a number. But I think it is more meaningful, or if you want, you can also return an empty string, which returns nothing when there is no value on searching for the value that we are searching for. Let's move on to the next argument. I'll leave this to not found, so it's more descriptive to what we are doing. So wherever I see not found, I know that it has searched for this value in the given range and it has not found it. Next, let's look at the next argument that we have in this XLOOKUP function. And the next argument we have is the search mode. So the search mode has 3 arguments. And the first, if you look at the documentation here, it explains them. It has actually more than 3. The first one is a 0, which is exact match. And what exact match means that when I put a 0, it will go and look for that value the way it is, exactly the way it is. So if it doesn't find it, it will see not found. But if it finds it, then it will insert a value. Like an empty space here, it's not found because there's no empty space. Now, that is exact match. It looks for the value the way it appears without any variation. Now, the other option that we have is 1 for an exact match, or the next value that is bigger than the search key. Now, what this one does is, I remember our search key is this one. So if I put 1 and I do OK, you'll observe that it has returned me a value here. So why has it returned grenade as a value here? So in our documentation, it says it returns, if it looks for this exact match, if it finds it, it will return that value. But if it doesn't find the search item, it will go and look for the next value, which is higher in value than the next value higher than the search key. So in this case, it goes to the next value that is higher than this, and it will return the corresponding country rating to that. So if I go to my data set here, I'll see that 933 is not there, and the next value is 34. And 34 relates to the country grenade that has been returned. So that is how the 1 works. And this one is good when you're using a range of data. You're saying find a data between 0 and 10,000. So that when it searches for the 0 and doesn't find, it will go for the next, and the next will be maybe 10,000 or something like that. So that is how the 1 works. Now, because now the 1 finds the next upper value, then if you put -1, it will find the lower value. So if I press enter, you can see it changes the value to the next lower value. So my search key is 33, so the next lower value may be 33 and below. So if I go to my data set here, you see that it returns the one that responds to 32, and the country is Tuvalu. So that is how the next search value works. The next argument, okay, that's how it works. So those are somehow the options that we have. You can explore the other options on your own. Okay. Of course, the next one is the search mode. Now, this search mode is where it searches from the last. If you put 1, it searches from the first entry to the last entry. If you want to search from the first entry to the last, then you put 1. And if you want to search from the last to the first going up, you'll put -1. And then 2 for a binary search, assuming the values are in ascending order, and -2 for a binary search if the values are in descending order. So the other thing that you can do, if you want a very fast search, you can arrange these values in ascending order, and then you go for binary search. And the advantage for this, it will be much, much faster. But I'll not go into that in this example here. Now, the other important thing to note about the XLOOKUP value, in our case, we returned only one value. You may say, but I want to return more than one value. Maybe also I want item type here. So I want to fill all these items, all these columns here with the value, with their values. So what I'll do is I'll go back and modify my formula here, and I'll be specifically modifying my return value. If you remember, the return array, this one accepts an array, and in this case, I want to return more than 1. So let's go back and amend this. Now, I'm going to remove this and go back and select what I want to return. And in Google Sheets, it is good to put them in parentheses, these kind of brackets that you see here. So if I go here, I want country and the type. So these are close to each other. I'll select these two. Like so. Then I put, let's go back. Okay. Let's copy this and put it here. I'm going to first go back to my default here. Like so. Now, I want to search for these two columns, and then the columns after the order number, like so here. So I think let me repeat the whole thing so that you get it more clearly. So again, I'm going to say XLOOKUP. The search key will be this value here. The next one is the lookup arrange, and I'm looking up that search value in my order. Where is my order? My order is right here. I can lock it. Then the next is the result. What result do I want to be returned? I want to return the country and the food type. Okay. I can lock that. And also, this one is getting into my way. Let me lock it, close it. In parentheses, I also want these values on my right, the ship date, the unit, the price, and the profit. I say comma. And for now, I think that is it. Close our brackets and do so. Then I need to lock these ones here, because the reason I'm locking, I'm going to copy my formula down. And when I do that, you see that for the first items, they are NA, and the rest can be displayed. So our XLOOKUP can return one value or an array of values, as you can see here. That's also another thing that you should take note of. And I also lastly have here my profit, like so. Okay, so be aware that you can return one value or more than one value. Now, next, I want to also show you that the XLOOKUP can also search data in a horizontal format. For example, this is my data here. I've transposed it using the transpose function and put it under horizontal format. So even if the data is in this format, I can also use the XLOOKUP to search for a country in this format. So again, I'll do the same. I say XLOOKUP. The search value is this one here. The next one is where am I going to search for this search value? I'm going to search it from this array right here, comma. Then what do I want returned? Well, what I want returned is a country which is in this array here. Okay, I think I can close that. And there you go. 157 rates to Russia, as you see. And if I change this here, you can see it changes all these accordingly, right? Like so. Change this to another one. You can see it works as expected. So the XLOOKUP does not search only in the horizontal format or the vertical format like the vertical lookup, but it also can search in the horizontal format. You also need to take aware of that. Be aware of that. Also, lastly, the other thing that is also important is when I go back to here, when I put in my values, this one comes from G to 2 to 7. You can see this is also 2 to 7, and this last one is also 2 to 7. These ones have to be uniform. If they are not uniform, you are likely to get errors. So also take note of that as well. Thank you for watching. This is all I have for you in this video. Hope it has been helpful. See you in the next video. And if you have not subscribed, don't forget to hit the subscription button. Have a great day.